Welcome to pages 3 and 4 of this lesson for Chapter 1. Our learning goal for these two pages is to define anatomy and physiology, what those words mean, and then the second one is to describe how they're related and give specific examples of how they're related. So let's first look at the words themselves. First we have this word anatomy, which the key word there is structure. So it's the study of structures of the body, and they can be inside the body, they can be outside the body, they can be small, they can be large, they can be in this middle. So any study of a body's structure is anatomy. Now physiology is not just the study of the structure. What do they look like? What's their shape? But the physiology is the study of what they do. What's their function? Okay? So anatomy is structure, meaning the shape of the thing, how it looks, how it's put together, what chemicals may be put together, and physiology is a study of what it does. Now, the reason why we teach anatomy and physiology together is because of this really important thing, and it's your first theme for the entire course, both this semester and next semester, which is that structure determines function. Okay, and if you're following along in the notes packet, you may see here, okay, on this page where it's Introduction to A&P 1, Chapter 1, the Basics, okay, and if you're following along, we're at this section right here, which says write the first theme of anatomy and physiology below. And so what you could do is you could write in your notes, structure determines function. And I'm going to add a phrase that I'll explain, which is at every level. What this means is it means that not only does the shape of a bone determine how that bone is going to function, but you can even get really, really small, and you can say that the shape of a molecule, the shape of a chemical, determines what it's going to do. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of examples. One example I want to give you that is one of my own that I often share in class is I have my students look at these two pictures and tell me what's different. And some of the things you may come up with that my students have come up with in the past, well, this is a human hand over here, this is a dog paw over here. Okay, well, what's different about that? And what people tend to go to is eventually this structure of the thumb. Here's the human thumb, and then here's the equivalent in a dog. Okay, so for the human thumb, it's long. If I was going to take my thumb, I could move it in all of these different directions. Okay, but this similar structure right here on the dog, it can't move in those same ways because it's not shaped the same. So what that means is that this thumb gives us functions as humans that dogs don't have. So for example, we can grip objects, we can make tools, we can sit there and text, and last I've checked, I've never seen my dog texting. Just not able to because the dog does not have the structures to give it the function. Another example that you have in your lesson here on page 4 is that of the elbow. Now this is one of the, so here's the bone of your upper arm. So if I'm looking at my arm, it's going to be this portion of my arm, okay? And then right here, okay, and it's showing it also right here, is going to be, and it's going to be this lower portion of my arm right here, okay? And you can notice that whenever I go to bend my arm, okay, I can bend it forward this way, but unless something's really wrong, I'm not going to be able to bend it back that way, okay? So that's the function of it. The function of it is how it moves, how these two bones move relative to one another. Then we look at the structure. And the structure, you notice that this bone of the lower arm has this little notch. And here's that notch right here. It's around the upper arm bone. And when you straighten your arm out, this notch hits the back of this bone. And that's what prevents you from being able to hyperextend your elbow unless something's broken. So the structure of how these bones fit together is what allows you to bend your elbow in some ways, but not in others. Okay, so there's many examples. This is kind of big structures. We call them macroscopic structures. You don't need a microscope to see them. But the same principle applies for microscopic structures, little molecules inside of your body. If they're shaped properly, then they function properly. If they're shaped improperly, they function improperly in many, many cases. Why is this important to you? People are generally, most of you are going into health professions, and people are generally coming to you because something's not working right. And so to truly understand the cause, and therefore what do you do about it, you need to fully understand the structure, or the function, which is physiology, and how that relates to structures. And then a lot of times you may be trying to fix that structure. So you could go in and do an operation and fix the bones, or a lot of times if it's a molecular level, we give a person a pill that fixes structures or can make up for a structure that's not working properly on a molecular level in some way. So this is a theme that you're going to see over and over again in anatomy and physiology, and so I would ask yourself at every point, this is a structure, how does that relate to its function? Okay. And if you go back here to your notes packet, where it says give your own example of this theme, I would practice thinking about what are some things that you could come up with just based on your knowledge of the human body, of how the structure of something affects its function. Okay? So see what you can come up with on your own.